Hello, world. Welcome to Trendsetters, wherever you are. I'm Dr. Lena, and I'm your personal sociologist, here to do some cards for you to keep tabs on the madness that is the election that's coming up. It's only weeks now. Tick, tick, tick. Before we get into all that, Neil Gorsuch. Hmm. We know he has established ties with oil billionaires, his best friends over the barbecue. Okay. And there's a story came out this week that he actually threatened Biden about probing too deeply into the financial wheeling and dealing of the Supreme Court. Allegedly, allegedly. Threatened the president about looking at the Supreme Court. So let's just quickly, it's a yes or no, really. Or maybe not, we'll see. But I just want to see if that story's got any legs. Is that true or not? Before we get into the madness and the machinations of this time in history. Okay. So welcome aboard. Buckle up. Crazy times. Okay. Anything to this Neil Gorsuch story? Neil Gorsuch and Biden. Did he threaten Biden? Okay. All right. Have a look. Oh, wow. I think he did. Okay, from these cards. Now, there's two aces. Aces are taking the opportunity to do something new and think of it in a different way, right? Now, normally this card is overflowing emotions, like the new baby in the family, and it's all good news and stuff like that. But what we can say is that it was an emotionally charged encounter, right? In fact, emotion pouring out here. Look at this. Ace of Pentacles or Fool's Gold, as it can be on occasion. But look at this. I think he did threaten Biden with taking money in the form of donors out in the cold. In other words, he threatened to bankrupt the Dems donor class or something quite major. I was just going, oh, yeah, he had a word with him. That's not good. I wasn't expecting this. This is really not good. Okay. Now, this figure representing Biden in this conversation actually has choices they don't realize at the time. I think Biden was genuinely shocked, genuinely shocked. Now, he's been in politics for at least 50 years, and stuff, but I think this actually rocked him to his core, and I think it did happen. Oh my God, you've got to keep your eye on everybody, don't you, really? So let's have a look here. I'll get to that in a minute. I think the most important thing I'd like to look at is the suppression of the women's vote and how's that going. But I want to insert a quick little one. Elon the muskrat. Now, if you see that take off on social media, just know you heard it here first. Taro Down Under, the muskrat. Okay. I watch all these Alaskan programs, so, people eat muskrats. He's now been accused of stealing designs. And I think because those four executives walked this week, they would have been sitting on a lot of stories. They would have known bad behavior when they see it, but they were, probably signed non-disclosure agreements and all that sort of stuff. But now the word is out. So, Elon, will anything happen about the muskrat stealing industrial designs? He'd stop at nothing. He's another narcissistic rat bag, as we would say in Australia. I don't know that you have the equivalent of rat bag. You know, it's someone who they can be just ditzy or something. But when you're talking about a man in particular, it's sort of, oh, he's a rat bag. It sort of implies he's not very together and unpredictable. So he's a narcissistic rat bag. Okay, stealing designs. What was this about, Elon? Don't. Oh, don't. Look, the universe having a little laugh. Yeah. Shortest line between 2 points. This is my Fred Flintstone card. Okay, this is the ruthless side of him. He'll do whatever it takes. This is the sneaky stuff. We've got the High Priestess, the secret agenda, and the Queen of Cups with the lid on her cup. Okay, this is the sneaky stuff. This will impact him, it will wound him, but it's not fatal, you know. It's another sort of injury. He doesn't care because it was worth it to save money with this Knight of Pentacles. That's all he cares about. No, that's not true. That's not all he cares about. I think he's not so much motivated by how many dollars he's got notionally against his name. He's craving the power that goes with it. Right. But these are cards of sneakiness. So I'd say yes to the viewer who asked that. Okay, now, North Carolina, Ohio, and other states generating these last minute laws, Georgia, to try and disenfranchise women. Now, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with this awful law that they're sort of passing from one to the other called the SAVE Act. It's one of those stupid acronyms, you know, you can never work out what it means. But the upshot is how to stop women voting. And so you've got to be particularly careful if you're in a red state. I would encourage everyone, particularly women, to vote early because apparently if they get this through anywhere, you would not only have to have your birth certificate with the original county stamp on it, like not a copy, and your marriage certificate, and so just trying to throw roadblocks in. But 2 judges in Georgia have now smacked it down. It's too late to be doing this nonsense, but other states and counties are still vulnerable to this SAVE Act. Let's find out what's happening about suppressing the vote for women in red states. Women in red states and these new laws. What's happening here? Yes, well. Women have to be really, really, really careful in those states, right? Yes, behind the scenes, they are doing this. This is my card for the Republicans. Those of you who have been with me for a long time will know how I interpret this 10 of Cups. It's people pretending to have happy families when actually it's hiding all sorts of stuff within the family. I think many of these women are related to, work for, and are partnered with MAGAs and conservatives, but have their own intention to vote for Kamala underneath this. So with this lying down card reflecting, it's like for many of these women, this is a very big choice. They've usually been born into Republican families, in Republican communities, in Republican states. And this is a big existential almost spiritual dilemma for them, as if that isn't big enough. They've got people trying to steal their vote. Sorry, someone is lopping a tree like 5 yards from where I'm making this. Forgive me, I'm not even putting it on pause. I'm just shutting the door. Hopefully you can't hear it. Okay, now this page of cups, surprise news in the cup with this fish, meaning some women are going to turn up to vote in the same way they've always voted at the same place and find they're not eligible. This is the deceptive news, which is going to be distressing for many women. So it's really important. Look at this, holding on. In this case, symbolically holding on to your right to vote. So the Dems are suing some of these states already about this nonsense. It has to stop. So the practical way around is women in red states, if you know women in red states or you are one, please, please vote early in case this act gets passed and make people aware of it. It's really, really important. Make people aware of it. But Judge Bernie and I think Judge Cox in Georgia have battered it back, but you've got to be onto it. Totally onto it. So we know they're up to no good. So, which is why you have to make it too big to steal. Hello, too big to steal. But the numbers are great on early voting. Have you seen some of those numbers? It's exciting, right? So that's really important. Now, meanwhile, the Yeti's running around saying he's going to sick the military onto people who vote against him and stuff. He's been saying terrible things, refusing to sign the papers, refusing to submit his medical record, all of this. But did you see the people at the rally in Coachella where the buses didn't turn up? And I think his own people are getting sick of him now, whether they admit it or not. Sick of him. Okay, so I will do a quick read on Trump, but before that, another question from a viewer. Why is Christopher Wray still head of the FBI after all his nefarious dealings? And when I saw that about Neil Gorsuch and stuff, I was thinking, God, they're everywhere, these people. They have spent the last 4 years putting their people everywhere. Christopher Wray was dodgy and inadequate when he was first in, which was 2017 or something. 7 years he's been in charge of a failing organisation, in the sense of they failed with the Kavanaugh confirmation to follow up on those tips. They've done a good job, I think, more recently in protecting the Yeti, but that is their job. I think they are actually monitoring these far-right hate sites and things quite well. So I would describe the FBI as a mixed bag, but they're so important going forward. So let's just see, will Kamala replace Christopher Wray? FBI. And then we'll have a look at the Trump stuff. Will she replace Christopher Wray? Let's have a look here. There she is. She knows it's a burden, but she's up to it. Yep. So here we go. She's planning and working on this right now with this Eight of Pentacles. She's scouting out who she will replace him with. She gets the Eight of Swords and the burden. Now, these aren't fun cards, but the upside is this. the Eight of Swords, I'll talk in shorthand here. This figure of a bound woman with the blindfold feels she's surrounded by swords in terms of, I'm sure, some of these agencies, including the Supreme Court. Okay. But if she can keep the faith, see the water, that is about your own inner spiritual world, your imagination, your creativity, the intangibles, her guides, if you like, her angels. If she gets in touch with them, she can shimmy out of the bonds, take off the blindfold, and walk through the gap in the swords, which is exactly what I think she'll do. The upside of the Ten of Wands, the burden, the path finishes very shortly and she can lay the burden down. It's a 10, the end of a cycle. So this is how she feels, I think, now with the Supreme Court and certain, the Postal Service even. Why is Joy still there? Arr. This is how she's feeling now, but she's got a plan. She gets the Empress. The Empress controls, right, and looks after people. So go the Empress. All right. So now have a quick look at the Yeti. What's he up to? While I'm shuffling for the Yeti, I just want to tell you on November 5th, it is Australia's Melbourne Cup Day. That's a horse race, right? And I think we might be the only country in the world that stops everything for a horse race on a Tuesday, right? So if people can get the day off work, they do. Almost everyone has the next day off, the day after Melbourne Cup. It's a heavy drinking day. We go back to our convict roots or whatever. Serious drinking on Melbourne Cup Day. One could argue too much. But even in schools, they'll have sweepstakes. In offices, they'll have sweepstakes. It's a massive event. It's one of the biggest in the world. 24 horses, 3 miles, long race. Point is, this year, it falls on your election day. There you go. Okay, it passes as a tradition in Australia. White Australia is only young, like the USA fantasy. So we call this a tradition. Okay, Trump. What's going on in his head? He's looking a mess. Let's have a look here. Mhm. Oh, he'll never do that. Okay, here we go. He realizes he's at this point of, well, we'll all know in a few weeks. What happens after that is what's important. But he knows he has to take an action now. Look, 2 and 2, this is juggling and manipulation. So he knows he's at the point of possibly losing the election. In his eyes, I think it's just dawning. He's going to manipulate his flabby buttocks into oblivion, trying to do this. His people want him to compromise on some of his cruder, more vicious diatribes. Will he? No, that'd be no. He won't compromise. Why? Because he's convinced he's the king. So with these 2s, let's remember he's a Gemini. So Trump in the morning is not quite the same person as Trump in the afternoon, who would change again by evening. So I think he's experiencing, he gets his yes people in. Yeah, we can do that. And then he sees some disastrous poll or some ad that is calling him out, and then he gets into an angry retreat. Let's just pull an extra couple of cards here. The Italian deck on his mindset. But he can't conceive of not ruling his world because he even managed to manipulate his bossy patriarchal father. You know, he has never had to do anything he hasn't wanted to do. No one has ever been able to tell him to do anything. And I don't think he's traveling well. Let's have a look here with these cards. I'll just pull three. Oh, this is, you know, I was just saying about yes people. Now, it's the same with the muskrat. They only surround themselves with people who give them the good news. So this is the friends, the amigas, or pretend friends, right? The ones who are still supporting him, trying to prevent the disgracia, the disgrace of the Gran Signore of the Yeti. But they can't. No one could. No one could. So here we go. So let's have a look at the critical thing here is for you guys how to stay sane, how to actually flourish with all this tension and insecurity around you, because it's really important to stay on board and stay focused. We know he's going to say he's won. He could get 12 votes in an entire state and he'd still say, I won by millions. We know he's going to do this. We know these fake friends are going to support this fantasy because they're going to stave it off as long as they can, right? So it's going to be challenged. And so it's really important to understand there's going to be months of legal argy-bargy. Okay, it's fairly inevitable. They're not going to take it lying down because they know they're going to be in the wilderness for 2 generations after this sorts. So how for you guys, advice from the universe, how to handle that tension. I've got no doubt Kamala will win. Don't worry in those terms of the popular vote. But we know she's got the hurdle of the Electoral College. She's got DeJoy, who's doing his bit to slow everything down. They've got their fake electors in place. That's something Kamala should be talking about. That's jail sentence for Tina Peters, that 9-year jail sentence, which went from 3 to 9 because she wouldn't shut up. Actually put the fear of God into them. It's only a couple of weeks to go. Just broadcast that. Okay, now you guys, what do you need to know? Let's look. Oh, there's Kamala. Yay. Queen of Wands is my Kamala card. This is you guys. Now, let's have. This used to be my Princess Diana card. This is women. This is the women's election. And by that, I also include the men who are compassionate souls and who care about their partners, sisters, nieces, cousins, and what is happening with the women's vote. So this is bracketing this reading for you. Trust the women going for. The women, see this figure's quite androgynous, are into the fray. I think if there are significant numbers in any particular place of women who turn up at the ballot box and aren't able to vote, I think they're going to take this further, but this is women, in a way, symbolically taking to the streets to save the nation. Okay, for you guys, remember the calmer waters. Remember this too shall pass, as my old dad used to say, and the sanity will return. But you have to be part of the change you want to see. And now, here is the Queen of Wands. So she's stepping from being vice president into president. She's stepping from her legal identity, even her political identity. She's shifting into, this is also a maternal figure. It's like the opposite of J.D. Vance's idea of what children are about, what families are about. It's a bigger picture. I mean, I can't even think of a family I know that isn't a blended family in some way, in terms of ethnicity or second, third marriages or whatever. But it's getting in touch with the divine feminine principle of the universe. Look, it's time. It's time. Now, let me bring you up to date with a few things. The reading I was going to do with Deanne and Linda has been put off, but not for long. We're talking a week or two. I'm not sure if it'll be before or after the election. But in the meantime, and I'll put this up in the comments, I will be with Sheila, Celtic Sheila, on the 24th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'll be with Andre on Sunday, the 27th at 7 p.m. EST. And I think they're both going to be live, so it's a chance to catch me live and you can join the chat. So if you're not subscribed to Celtic Sheila or Andre's Astrology Alert, do that so you can be part of the live chat. And I'll get back to you. Okay, guys, take care, and I'll see you soon. Ciao.